Welcome to In the Moment with Kortia, where we inform, inspire, and motivate you to be a positive agent of change. Good morning on this Fire It Up Friday. Whoop, whoop. Right before the weekend. I know it's exciting for you. I know you're like, okay, this is that day. It's time to have a little relaxation. Hey, everybody out there, you made it, all right? But look, let's stay fired up on this Friday and carry it all the way through on our weekend. Hey, we're going to be talking today about how to overcome failure. And me saying that, I want you to take extra special note of the things that you do on the course of today and over this weekend. And I'm even going to say about the things that you've actually gone through over the course of this entire week, okay? And see exactly, after we talk about this particular subject matter on today, exactly if you have had failures or possibly perceived failures in your life and exactly how to go past and overcome those things. But hey, look, why don't you call into the radio station at the local number at 318-484-2500 or toll free at 877-464-2500 and possibly share one of the obstacles or what the perceived failures that you may have had over this week. What is it that you consider a failure that happened to you on this week? And you can reach out and follow us all across social media at In the Moment with Kortia and go directly to our website at inthemomentwithkortiakuzan.com. All right, Fire It Up Friday, and we're talking about how to overcome failure. And you know, it's something that how a lot of us, we see failure as like the end all for all things. And you know, like I said, I'm always going to be first partake of all of the things that, you know, I share with you, that we talk about. And, you know, one of the biggest obstacles that I had to actually get past was my own self-imposed, putting myself down, okay? And what I mean by that is that there were two things in my life that, you know, I just really struggled with. And I mean, just really recently, I'm talking about in the last 2 or 3 years have I overcome these things. One was that I was always telling God, you know, wow, I don't want to fail you. 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 I don't want to disappoint you. I don't want to let you down, you know. And then the next thing is that my other thing that was, I don't want to not live up to the potential that you have on the inside of me. I mean, really. I mean, I'm talking about focusing on these 2 points so much so to where, I mean, I had started having anxiety. I mean, man, I was losing sleep behind this. I started having headaches about this. I even had pains in my chest about this. I mean, really, this thing really gripped me, okay? Because I allowed the enemy to just get me in this mode or this mindset to think that I was going to disappoint God, that I was actually going to fail God. And, you know, God was just like, well, God actually had to come to me, you know, as I was praying and say, well, how is it that you can actually fail me? And he was I just started roll calling stuff. Well, you know, if I don't do this and I don't do that, and I know you put this in my spirit or whatever to do this, to help out people and do all of these different things. But he was just like, well, didn't I know you before you were formed, like in your mother's womb? I was like, yeah, Lord, that's what your word said. But he was like, just hold on. He was like, wait, hold on. He was like, didn't I craft you to be wondrously made in my sight? I was like, yeah, Lord, but you know, didn't I call you to be a masterpiece? Didn't I say you were more than an overcomer? Didn't I tell you that with your hand, you put your hands to it, be blessed? Didn't I tell you wherever the sole of your feet shall tread, that have I already given unto you? And he said, aren't you walking in faith? Aren't you walking in faith? He was like, well, yeah. He was like, well, how can you disappoint me? Because he said, didn't I tell you that I know the end from the beginning? And I'm like, I know all the things that you're ever going to do in life, but if you do those things in faith according to my will and divine purpose for your life, there's no way you can disappoint me. So it was like the weight of the world literally came off of my shoulders. And he said, potential isn't something that's just happening right then and right there. He was like, you can look all over in my word, look all over in the Bible, and you see so many people that didn't see themselves as having great potential, but as they allowed themselves to progress, as they allowed themselves to develop in the moment. And remember, see how I'm saying themselves? Because God already knows what each and every one of us is capable of, okay? Let's just put that out there. He knows what each and every individual upon the face of this earth is capable of. And specifically, he knows even more so what his children are capable of. But it's about us actually progressing and going through a particular process, you know, that he has us on. But it's about overcoming failure. And, you know, look, failure, if you don't realize this, is actually, you know, an unavoidable part of life. I mean, We tend to actually shy away from it whenever possible. We think about, man, if I fail, if I come up short in a certain area, I mean, people are going to look at me wrong. I mean, how am I going to look in front of like my coworkers, family members, my friends, all of these different things. And look, failures come in like really many different forms in life. I mean, but it's an important part of failure is how we're going to actually react to that failure. And, a lot of people, when they actually come up against things to where they consider themselves failing, man, it's like, they get traumatized. It's like, shell shock. That military expression, shell shock. Like, you don't know where to go to the left. You don't know where to go to the right. You don't think about making the right type of decision because you start to connect everything to, that particular failure. And, C.S. Lewis actually said, C.S. Lewis, the individual that actually, did the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, those particular books like that. I mean, I'm a quote from him is that failures are finger posts on the road to achievement. Finger posts. So as you're going along this road to achievement, this road to success, you're going to have little stops in the road to where it seems like you're going to have failures. But how you react to those failures are actually going to determine exactly where you are at in life. Are you going to be, like I said, paralyzed? Or are you going to use those failures to actually catapult you ahead? And I'm sure you all recognize this particular name, Michael Jordan. I mean, he even said, I can accept failure. Everyone fails at something, but I can't accept not trying. Okay? Everyone is going to fail at something. Okay? But why is it that we take those failures and try to use them as an excuse to not try anything in life? And if we are continually being real with ourselves and we look around everywhere we go, and if our ears are open, we're seeing people all the time, every day, I should say every second, every minute of the day, coming with some type of excuse to why they don't try to go forward. I mean, it really breaks my heart to see the potential inside of an individual. And because they may have had some type of setbacks in their lives, they may have tried these things and they may have failed, or let's just say it didn't work out the way they thought it was going to work out, okay? And, people just grab hold of that and say, well, I failed, just because it didn't work out how they thought in their mindset. But they use that to stop them from ever progressing any further in life. And Samuel Beckett, the soccer player, all right? He actually said, ever tried, ever failed, no matter, try again, fail better. And it's like I've said before, as I tell my kids, if you're going to fail forward, okay? And a lot of people look at me when I say that like that makes no sense. When you are actually failing forward, it's not that you're stuck in that particular moment of where it seems like you failed. You take that so-called failure and you use it and you gain from it, you gain knowledge from it, and you allow it to push you forward, okay? It's kind of like almost like on a hill. If you're going up a hill, okay, it seems like you've got pressure, it's struggling, you're going up this hill, you're like, whew, whew. But when you're going down that particular hill and you so quote unquote failed, then when you go down the hill, you go at an accelerated rate. So we can actually take failures to actually accelerate us on that pathway of success. Use those so-called failures to get us to on a fast track to where God is actually calling us. But what is it? We shouldn't allow ourselves to actually be paralyzed in that particular moment, but use it as something, as I continue to say, as a stepping stone towards what? Being that positive agent of change. And, we have to realize that failure, more than anything, is a mindset. It's a mental condition, okay? It really, really is. If we don't allow ourselves to get that mental chain, and it's amazing in how much the mind plays. I mean, there's this book that's written out there called The Battlefield of the Mind. I would really encourage you to actually go and get that book. I think it's actually written by Joyce Myers. That book is just like really, really awesome because it really delves into how our mental state and the way we think could actually help us to go forward. But, 9 times out of 10, more times than not, most people use that to actually stop them from ever achieving anything in life. And that hence it's called the battlefield of the mind. And we know that the enemy, comes to you at your mental state, tries to get you into your soul to make emotional decisions on things that play in your life, from days, months, years to come. But how are we actually overcoming that failure? Well, like I said, you've got to have the right frame of thought, okay? It's very, very key. You've got to have the right frame of thought when it comes to overcoming, those so-called failures that you have in your life. You actually have to see, just like if you're riding a bike, okay? If you ride a bike as a child, you ride and you fall off the bike, what are you going to do? You're going to say, one time, it's too hard, I'm not going to try again? Or as a child, did you get back up? Did you get on that bike? Did you start pedaling? And yeah, you may have got a bump. Yes, you may have gotten a bruise, but what? Because of the reward that you see that's going to happen of learning how to ride that bike, what ends up happening? You keep going. And guess what? That's a tidbit for you right now as you're in your moment. Keep going, overcome this failure, and allow this failure to actually take you to the reward that God has in store for you. Family, you're in your moment. Use this, capitalize this, and use this riding the bike scenario that we just have as you're riding the bike of life. Stay in your moment. Welcome back to In the Moment with Kortia Kuzan on this Fire It Up Friday. Hey, call into the radio station with your questions or comments. Hey, I'm looking for someone to share their experience if they've overcome a failure on this week or possibly going through a quote-unquote failure. Call into the radio station at 318-484-2500 or toll free at 877-464-2500. And I didn't do it before, but I wanted to make sure I give a shout out to Central Louisiana and all the surrounding areas. Natchitoches, Gina Alexandria at 88.1 FM. Monroe, West Monroe on 98.9 FM. Shreveport, Greenwood on 92.5 FM. St. Joseph, Natchitoches, Mississippi on 99.3 FM. And Lake Charles on 100.1 FM. And again, on this Fire It Up Friday, we're talking about how to overcome failure. So, in dealing with failure, it's basically that people, it's basically, failure can actually be, like I said, that positive or that negative that you can actually have, in your life. Positive to actually you can say, well, look, okay, it didn't work out this way, so this just means that I'm one step closer to my success. Or you can take it as a negative and you can just throw up hands, say I'm defeated, and just walk away from it. But like I said, it's all it's all around this mental state that we all have, okay? It's a lot of times to where some people say, well, you tried this and you tried that, you ought to just give up, okay? How many times you've ever seen people or been around people, I've tried, and I failed. So what's the point? Why do I even need to keep trying? But then on the other hand, you see some individuals like they've tried and they seem like they failed. And a lot of individuals, just like I said, I like to use the example when it comes to like getting in shape, weight loss. And you may have hit this goal for yourself that, within the first 9 months to a year, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drop, 50 pounds. All right. And you go ahead and all of a sudden within a year, you only drop about 35 pounds. Now, based upon what you wrote on the paper and maybe what you said to yourself, quote unquote, technically, okay, that would be considered a failure. But if you actually look at what's happened and how, you're smaller clothes size, inches have been dropped, you're breathing better, you're not eating all the junk and everything that's out there, but you drop 35 pounds, you're able to like move around and your joints aren't hurting. I'm actually going to say you could count that as a success. But it's like I said, it's going to depend upon the outlook. You might say, well, of course you would consider that a success. I mean, wow, you may not have lost the 50 pounds, but you lost the 35. But that's how some people actually rationalize failure and success in their lives. They see not hitting something, what they thought of that should have happened as being a failure and not really seeing how what they did achieve as the success that's in their lives, okay? So it's about, like I said, really dwelling on these certain things that, really are unnecessary to actually think about, because people are going to actually deal with failures in many, many different ways. And one of the biggest ways people actually deal with failure is this, denial, okay? I mean, it's big because the individual doesn't actually accept the defeat. It's kind of like, all right, you try to deflect, just like you're driving in your car, okay? And say like you've got bugs hitting your windshield, or, a rock or something that skips and hits your windshield and it bounces off like it's being deflected. A lot of people put up this like shield to like deflect the any type of failure that may have come to them. It's like, as long as I don't really speak about it as long as I don't acknowledge it, then it actually didn't happen, okay? Have that deniability of something not happening. It's the same thing like in the area of relationships, and I see this so many different times, especially when it involves like adultery or some type of infidelity. As long as I don't acknowledge it, then guess what? It's not really happening. You know, people tend to just like put these blinders on as far as like things that may be causing them to go down this road of, you know, failure to stop them from getting to where they need to be of success. And as long as I don't speak about it, it's not real, okay? And I've seen people in the profession, in the corporate world, actually do this. As long as I don't address it, then it just seems like the problem or what's going on should just simply fade away, okay? So if you're telling me that for whatever reason you're doing something and possibly you break your leg, okay, and I'm not speaking this on anyone, but you break your leg and you don't acknowledge that you've broken your leg, do you think that you're actually just going to get up and continue to carry on with your day? Or is something going to remind you that your leg may be broken, okay? I'm thinking you're going to have to address that. Whereas the same thing with these steps that you're taking in life, these apparent failures that you have, you're going to have to address these things. But what's really significant is this. You're going to have to not just say, okay, I failed. What happened as you're stepping along this pathway? Are you actually just using these quote unquote failures to just hold you back, to keep you in place of never going forward? Or are you doing what they're actually being used for, to actually grow from these things? You know, on the drive in, I'm sitting there and, you know, my wife and I will pray each and every morning when we're coming in. And then all of a sudden, I don't know, sometimes, you know, she says that as we're praying, I just get like quiet and stop. You know, sometimes I don't realize it and other times I do. And I remember one of those moments today that I did get quiet. And then, you know, it just came to me, just out the blue, for the subject matter that we're going to be talking about. And I was just like, wow, failure. And how it just came as if I was like bearing witness to a conversation that God was having with someone. And it was like asking a question, where God asked a question. Some of you may ask this question. I'm catching you right now in your moment. It's going to set somebody free. You've asked God, why is it that I'm failing? Why is it that I'm failing in life? Why is it that these things aren't happening into my life? And God said, well, you're asking the wrong question. And I was like, listen, I'm listening, right? And I'm like on the outside watching this conversation going on. And they're asking, well, God, why am I failing? And God said, well, you're asking the wrong question. And God said the question you should be asking is, why don't you see yourself growing? That was powerful. That just caught me right there. We keep asking, Lord, why are we failing? Instead of asking God, how should I be growing? Each and every opportunity, each and every situation that we actually go through is a moment of growth. And because the way we perceive things and the way we look at things and the way we try to receive things within ourselves, then what happens? We continually put this label of failure on different things. And look, family, if I would have taken every single thing that has happened in my life up till this point and looked at all of that as failure, you would not be hearing me on the airwaves right now. I can guarantee you that. I can guarantee you that. You know, it's amazing at how when your frame of mind starts to turn around and how you can actually start seeing what's actually going on, okay? I actually made a comment to someone on, day before yesterday. And I said, isn't it amazing that when you're going through that grooming process that God has you on, you don't even realize you're going through a grooming process? Until when you finally make it to that certain point where he wants you to be, it's all of a sudden that you get this like tap on your shoulder and then he says, look back. And you look back over the hurdles, you look back over the struggles, you look back over the pain, you look at all of the schemes people were laying down for you, you look at all of these pitfalls, you look at all the traps the enemy has set for you, and then he lets you know how he was there with you at that particular moment, and he shows you exactly how he's grown you up and how he's taken all of that adversity, all of those so-called failures, and you've arrived to be a success at that moment. You haven't arrived to your overall success, but you did arrive at that level of success at that moment. We're talking about how to overcome failure here, family. We're talking about how God's keeping you in your moment right now. And we're seeing that right now, how he's allowing you to know that you're going to take this moment and catapult it and continue to grow on this Fire It Up Friday through your weekend and as we go into Motivational Monday. Welcome back to In the Moment with Kortia Kuzan, known as Fire It Up Friday. Hey, we're talking about how to overcome fear. And look, the phone lines are still open for each and every one of you family that want to share one of your instances of how you've actually possibly gone through a bout with fear, or should I say with failure, and then also to actually go and, the things that you've overcome as far as like getting past different failures in your life. Look, we're actually going to be having this, and I'm looking at the subject matter, and I just told my wife before we went to when we went to break, I said, look, this is going to be a two-parter, so this is definitely going to be going over into Motivational Monday. But, what's really evident is this, and I've said this before, is that, I'm a people watcher. I mean, I watch people all the time. I just see their reactions, see what they do, see if something comes up as far as like what they're going to do in that particular situation. It's just me. It maybe stem from, that life of when I used to be running the streets and everything like that, how you always had to watch your surroundings and whatnot, and how it's just like in me just to watch everything that goes on around me. And it's amazing at how you see the reactions that people have to, the smallest, most minute things. And, it literally, from a small instance that happens in their lives, it plays a dramatic effect in their lives. But, the most common reaction, after dealing with, any kind of failure or defeat is to what? Give up. Just to give up hands, just to say, wow, it's never going to get any kind of better. And, the mindset starts to get shifted. Now, I know that over a certain course of time, okay, that if you've had a apparent failure here, apparent failure there, apparent failure here, apparent failure there, it tends to allow people to just throw up hands and, just give up. It crushes your confidence. It just seems like it just breaks your spirit. And you probably get into that corner, and I'm talking to you men too, because don't say you don't do this. I know I've done this. It's like you get to that quiet place where no one can actually see you. You shed a few tears, and you're like, man, what's really going on with me? Why can't it happen for me? Why do I have to struggle so much? Wow. Seems like everybody else, okay, the very next thing we start doing that comes up is the blame game, okay? Seems like everyone else can do it. How come they get the big breaks? My big thing when I was growing up was this. I saw things that happened in other family members, or what I thought was the, had it all together part of the family. And I based that on because, you had the mama, the daddy, and everything in-house, with the cousins and whatnot. So I was like, well, they had it all together. And so, just because of how things were progressing in their lives, I started looking at how things were in my life, and I was like, man, this is bad. As far as like on my part, this is awful on my part. I don't have this foundation here, this structure there, nobody supporting me here. I was rationalizing all these things and started blame here, blame there. I don't have this opportunity, they are basically, having like an allowance or something. And me, I'm like, 15 years of age, riding a bicycle 5.5, 7 miles away to go to job, then going to football practice and coming back. And, basically what I consider toil and struggling when, those individuals didn't have to go through that. And then when it comes to like having your first automobile and everything, it was like someone being able to buy, other individuals' automobiles, but then what? Coming up with my own money and doing what I had to get to what you would call on today. I don't know what the term today, but back then we called it a bucket or a hoopty or whatever you wanted to call it. But what? God showed me that through this entire process, that even then he was working on me to not accept my situation where I'm at. Hey, I'm talking to you right now in your moment, not accepting the situation of where I am. But look, even though in the beginning, I'm going to say it again, even though in the beginning it may be tough, okay, it may, the outlook is not the way you want it to be. Look, nothing is happening. It seems like nothing is happening right. But if you actually look at where you are right now, it may not be dramatic jumps, but you are making progress forward, okay? As I said at the beginning, if you can look at your life, okay, if you are actually serious, have actually been committed, actually dedicated to this process, to the plan and purpose that God has upon your life, all right? If you have truly been committed to this on this 2019, if you've actually taken steps to go forward, if you've actually taken steps to increase your mental state, okay, read a book, listen to a coaching program. I mean, wow, for you to even be listening to me right now and you know how God has instilled it in me to just grab hold of you with the sound of my voice and actually help carry you over to be that positive agent of change. If you've actually been applying all of these things, there is no way that you can honestly say from January 1 to this day, which I believe is like the 22nd of March, that there's no way you can actually say that if you've been taking all of this and absorbing all of these things, that you can count yourself as a failure. There is no way whatsoever that you can say that. The only reason that you can actually say right now, if you're looking at yourself in the mirror, if you're driving in your vehicle, wherever you're at, the only way that you can say you're a failure is if you choose to be a failure. It's because you've made that decision to be a failure. When all along, God is actually showing you just how much greatness you have on the inside of you. And you feel it. I know you feel it. You feel something tweaking on the inside of you, like something just wants to spring forth, like something just wants to come alive. But you don't really know what's going on because why? You've never really allowed yourself to feel that before. It's almost like, wow, I've got hope again. Okay, wow, I started dreaming again. It's like, okay, so you mean that I'm not a failure? You mean I'm not cast to the side? You mean I'm more than what people said I am? God is allowing you to know, guess what? You are more than what even you think you are. See, it amazed me. I've heard this before at how God says what basically came to me one time and how great, how did he verbalize it? How did he put it to me? Because I don't want to miss this. I want you to really catch this. Basically, it was like, how much do you think I'm able to do in your life? It was something along that lines. You know, God and I have these very interesting conversations, okay? And so, and like I told you before, I've got this imagination that's just like, woo, it's out there. It's really out there. And then all of a sudden, God, I'm thinking about these things, and God's like, you know how when a child talks to a parent, just like, you know, we're God's children, right? So I'm talking to God, and he's up there, okay. And then, God, I'm thinking about like, oh, yeah, I'm touching or doing this with my family. He's like, okay. I'm like, yeah, how you told me I was going to do this and, you know, touch not only the nation, okay. And then, yeah, I'm going to be able to help you, like, you know, the homeless people on drugs and, you know, supply this and supply. I'm like, oh, he's like, okay. And I'm thinking of all of these things, okay, all right. And then he's like, well, what do you think about that? He's like, is that the level of the extent of the greatness or the things that you believe I can do in your life? I'm like, well, God, that's a lot. That's some pretty big things there. And he was just like, well, let me just break it down for you. The greatest level of your thought capacity of what you can have for me being able to do things in your life, consider it at the very low end of the scale of what I am capable of doing in your life. Knocked me on the bed. I was just like, oh my Lord. I'm like, and so I'm literally talking to him like I'm talking to you. I mean, so you mean to tell me that where I see myself right now as the greatest thing is really on the low end of the scale of where you want to take me? And he was like, absolutely. And that's exactly what God's saying to you right now through these broadcasts. Wherever you see yourself right now, however you may perceive yourself as being a failure, you are on the very lowest end. And no matter how great you think you can be, we are still going to be on the very low end of where God wants to take us. Look, failure, like I said, is a mental state. And, you know, failure translates, and it actually is a close relationship to fear. And I may have said this before, but I actually will suggest, and I've recommended a couple songs. And, you know, if you've never heard this one particular song, it's by an artist named Zach Williams, okay? And it's called Fear is a Liar. If you have never heard that song, I would invite you to hear that song. And I guarantee you, if you're on the border of allowing yourself to actually, and I say it again, allowing yourself to actually be loosed from this failure, when you hear that song and you don't just get totally set free, I tell you what, you're going to find out just possibly how much the enemy may have you entrenched. But look, Fire It Up Friday. If something on the inside of you right now hasn't been kindled, if something on the inside of you hasn't been set ablaze, wow, I tell you what, it's right now to where God is allowing, you know, all those things. Think about it, and it may be hard. All those things that you would probably say, okay, I failed at this. I failed at that. I failed at this. I failed at that. Oh, my Lord, this happened when I was a child of this. Wow, I've done that. I tried this. Was a failure at this business. I went to this job. Failed after this, and that. But guess what? Think of every single failure that you've actually had as a piece of wood. Now take that piece of wood, throw it in a pile, and allow it to feed that flame of success that God has on the inside of you. Family, you're in your moment. You're in your moment. We're not going to allow this failure to keep holding us back. On this 2019, you will, not that you may, you will walk into the fullness of your God-given destiny. You will be catapulted into your moment. You will stay in your moment. It just won't be a visitation. It just won't be a sometime fellowship with God. You're going to find out exactly how in this moment you're going to see who you really are in Christ Jesus. Stay in your moment. Welcome back to In the Moment with Kortia Kuzan on this Fire It Up Friday. Hey, we've been talking about how to overcome failure. And, before we went to the break, we were talking about the blame game and how, we try to deflect different things that happen in our lives onto other people. And, it's really amazing and how, I guess the way it primarily goes from the way I was raised. My grandfather actually told me, okay, you're going to be a man one day, and look, this is basically what's going to happen, okay? If you make a mistake, no matter right or wrong, if you fail at something, no matter right or wrong, however it goes, he was like, just own it. Just own it and move forward with it. And so, I've grown up with that mental state, and kind of it really, I'm astounded by the level of how when people do make mistakes or quote-unquote fail, that it's always, they try to pass the buck. They try to make blame for something else, to whether they didn't have the right resources, whether it was a person, whether they didn't have enough information on the topic, whatever it may be, they keep trying to pass the buck on it. But the thing is that when you're actually in that level of failure, and like I said, we're rounding it out as far as like on this last portion of the show today, because we're going to have this on a two-parter starting back up on Motivational Monday. But look, if you actually don't succeed in something, if you actually, fail in something, just accept it. I mean, what is so hard about actually accepting it? I mean, but don't accept it to the point, like I said, to where you use it as a hammer to beat yourself down with it, okay? Don't accept it to where you don't ever do anything else. I mean, accept it and use it to actually cause you to be more productive in where you're going. I mean, why? Because we can actually learn from our mistakes. A lot of people don't realize that, hey, when you go through this bout or maybe even a day, it might be an entire season of failure that you have in your life. What have you gleaned from it? What have you learned from it? What have you been taught from it? How have you grown through the process? I mean, we say all the time, you hear this in movies, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. If that's you right now, why are you continually going on this cycle of thinking that, hey, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm just going to use a different vehicle, but I'm going to use the same methods, and why do you think you're going to get different results? It doesn't work, okay? If it's like if you're at a job, and this is really funny, okay? People that actually, they're at a job, and then all of a sudden, these people aren't treating me right. And then all of a sudden, they say they leave, they quit, they get another job. They're there for a year. These people aren't treating me right. They leave, they quit, they get another job. And they keep saying it's the job, it's the job, it's the people, it's the people. But have you realized that it just might be you? Maybe you're going into these different positions with, I don't know, a negative mindset, having a poor attitude, always trying to pass blame, never learning the lessons that need to be learned. I mean, what is it? I mean, you're not going to go through the same thing over and over at a new job. You're not going to go through the same thing in new relationships, and it's a repeating process because of the different people that you go with. It's just like, a lot of, and it's men and women, but just like an individual, when you go to a relationship, and you ever heard anyone say this, it just seems like I get with the same kind of person every single time. Well, what? You've chosen. It's a choice. You've chosen to settle for that. And I'm not saying for you to start looking at you like your spouse or your boyfriend, girlfriend right now and start trying to analyze them. There are a lot of us right now, a lot of the failures or the supposed failures that we have in our life, we chose it, okay? Point blank, we've chosen it. You got to just own up to it and acknowledge it and accept that you chose that particular failure. It's like when you're, like I said, on a job and you're only making X amount of dollars. When you're in the interviewing process and they're talking about, the level of salary that they're going to pay you, if you said yes to that, then guess what? You chose it. You don't have any reason to go ahead and complain. You took the safe bet just so you can have some money coming in, and a lot of people are fearful that, if I say something, I won't get the job. Look, I've said so many different times, my wife knows, people in the profession knows that you may actually, get fed from the job, but the degree of how much you get fed is going to be determined by what you actually accept. So that can actually determine your level of success, all right? So if you're anything like me here in this, like I've told you before, even in that professional state, when you get interviewed, interview them back. And when they say, hey, well, I'm just going to, what do you think about this position at $50,000? I'm like, well, I was thinking more along $75,000. And then you find a happy medium somewhere in between. But never shortchange yourself, because whether you realize it or not, when you shortchange yourself, you're setting yourself up for failure, okay? And that's a revelation to somebody. You're like, whoa, I never thought about it that way. Well, guess what? You're thinking about it now. God's highlighting some things right now to you as you're in your moment. Each and every time you shortchange what you can do, what you shortchange, what you should be paid, what you shortchange and how you can actually enact and be that positive agent of change in your life, then guess what? You truly are setting yourself up for failure. You're truly setting yourself up for disappointment. But what? Like I said, we need to try to get our eyes off of those past disappointments, those past failures that we've had in our life, and just, accept those things, grow from it, focus on where we're actually going towards, and then don't constantly feel like you're trying to revive those old things. I mean, it's like, look, how many of us before starting some new enterprise we may have failed, okay? We start lining up almost like on a piece of paper everything that we didn't succeed on, and then we have that one new endeavor that we need to go into, and we start to actually draw this line towards a new endeavor. Yeah, if I do this, I'm going to fail. If I do that, I'm going to fail this. I'm going to do this, I'm going to fail. And before even trying and starting on something, you've already talked yourself out of actually taking the necessary steps to gain what you need to get towards reaching that particular goal in life. Talking to somebody right now. Now, look, continually your life is going to be about a series of choices, okay? And whatever you definitely choose is going to determine your path. That should be evident. Now, if you take hold of a situation and make it a positive, I mean, it's actually going to just elevate you. But if you take hold of that situation as far as like a negative, what's going to happen? It's going to pull you down. But, you need to look at this thing. And, I'm one of those people, I love certain parts of different movies, just because I like to relax and watch a good movie every now and then. It's always an underdog movie like so many individuals. And, I've actually seen this movie, and it may have been almost just like Rocky. I'm going to just let you know, I really enjoy me some Rocky movies. I really do. My wife's like, not me, but I really enjoy me some Rocky movies. And I love how even when, Rocky's up there, and he's on the ropes and he's getting beat down and he gets up and he may not verbalize it with his eyes, with his mouth, okay? But you can see it on his face and he's getting up there and it's like almost one more down. It's like for you football players out there, because I play football, and you're tie score and you're going into that fourth quarter. And what do? You put those four fingers up as you're walking on that sideline. Fourth quarter. What does that mean? You got to strap up them soldier boots. You got to pull into your reserves. You got to grab hold of the endurance that's in you. I got one more round in me. I got one more quarter in me, okay? I've got one more fast break in me. Whatever it is, when you're going along, you think that you're about to fail. To overcome that failure, you're going to have to dig deep and grab hold of that seed of greatness that we keep talking about. You're going to have to dig deep in that moment that you're in right now. You're going to have to dig deep and stop visualizing who you think you are, but go ahead and tap into who God says that you are. You have to dig deep and just know that one more time, if I get one more shot, if I can take one more step, if I can go over one more hurdle, I'm going to actually find out that I'm actually going to get catapulted into the moment that God has called me to be in, to where I'm actually going to overcome this realm of failure. You're that positive agent of change. You're the individual that God is calling right now. You're the one that God's tapping on the shoulder and said, you're more than able. God is saying right now, that on this Fire It Up Friday, that he's kindled the fire on the inside of you, he stoked the flame, and he set the fire ablaze. So what are you going to do right now? Are you going to overcome failure? Are you going to strive to success? Or are you going to continue to be in your moment? Family, I tell you, I look forward to speaking with you on Monday. But look, stay in your moment, take care, and God bless you.